All right. Welcome to this webinar that has a very long and fancy title, Empowering Cities, your channel for time-specific information, citizen engagement, and sustainability. It's a very long title, but it's a big subject that we care a lot about, citizen communication and engagement. We who are hosting this webinar are InnoCode. My name is Lova Lekaregraf. I work as, among other things, a project manager and help our clients do the most with their projects with us. We are around 50 innovators in the Nordics and mostly in Ukraine, Lviv, and USA. We work with innovation and communication at large, but today we will talk specifically about citizen engagement and communication, and specifically around our flagship product, which is our app, the Citizen app. With me today, I also have Bjarte Falk Olsen, who is our CEO. And I think I will let you take it away very soon, Bjarte. We will be here for around 45 minutes, maybe a bit shorter if I can keep you to it. And if you have any questions, I think we have the chat open for you, and I will try to bring up your questions as we go through this webinar. So Bjarte, you can carry on.
Thank you, Luva. As you can see from both where we're sitting, Luva and I, and the pictures, we're a very remote organization. Most of us work at least partly from home. We also have offices in Stockholm, Oslo, and the building, the house in Lviv, of course, that we see here. And we also have, due to the situation in Ukraine, we have people around most of Europe, actually, in Krakow, in Poland, and some people in Spain, and so forth. Most of our employees around Europe are Ukrainians, of course, and then we have a team of about 10 of us in the Nordics. So let's get into the content. But first of all, I would like to say some of you, I'm happy to see you here at the webinar, and some of you I met in Barcelona a couple of weeks back. And we were really happy about the interest in Barcelona at the Smart City Expo. And for those of you who weren't there, I would really actually recommend this event. It's a yearly event in Barcelona, and it's for us and for these sort of citizen engagement and sustainability discussions that I really think it's a good forum for it. And so we're probably going again in November next year, and hoping to see more people there. So what is this about? This is what we're doing, the Citizen app that we work with about 35 municipalities and cities in the Nordics with, is, as the name gives away, a solution, a framework for building an app. And why do you want to build an app as a citizen? That's pretty much what we're going to discuss today. We see that too much of public sector communication in the Nordics and in the dialogues we have with Europe and the US and so on, too much of that kind of communication is based on web surfaces. And the problem with basing it on web surfaces is that it expects a lot from the citizen, from the recipient. It expects them to find your content. And we see that the content created in local communities don't actually get the attention that it deserves, because there is a lot of stuff created, there is a lot of stuff happening in our local communities, but people do not know about it. So we feel that engagement and participation starts with actually knowing what's going on around you in your local community. And from user behavior in social media and so on, we do see that the users, the citizens, actually expect stuff to come to them. And so they expect the communication to be outbound. And a lot of cities mainly work with inbound channels, actually. They expect a lot of effort from the recipient. And the question is, can you actually expect that from your recipient? We did this survey with Norwegian and Swedish citizens a couple of years back. And there is a problem with local visibility. We asked these citizens if they find it important and if they want to know what's going on locally in their communities. And most people do think it's really important for their sort of engagement to know local events, to know local news from the civil society and so on. But only a small percentage feel that it's easy to build this overview. And what we see especially, I live and work from Stockholm, what we see especially is that the local communities connected to bigger cities have this issue. So the municipalities outside of Stockholm are quite often around 100,000 inhabitants. So it's decent sized communities in Nordic measures, but they have very little local connection because they all feel that they're part of Stockholm, even if they're really not. So most citizens will have a Stockholm identity, but they live in a local community that they really don't relate to that much. And we see this as quite a big problem because we're missing out on important local connections here. So many of these big city local communities are actually our clients around Stockholm and Oslo and so on, because they see the need to build this sort of local brand more than maybe smaller communities on the countryside. They probably don't have exactly the same need. So basically what we're doing with our citizen platform is that we give the opportunity to collect content from many content sources locally, the city, the organizations, the local event providers, so the cultural institutions, the sports institutions, all sorts of the activities, and we collect it in one place, in one app. This example on the screen is from a case we're working with a city in Chandler, in Arizona, US, that we're hoping to launch pretty soon. So basically, we collect all this content from different sources, content that is already being made, so we don't have to create new content. We collect it and we give the individual a possibility to personalize this, to say that I'm interested in this, not so interested in that, and so on. This means you're getting a local platform that is automatically updated by all these sources, being social channels, being web sources, and so on. So you have a local platform where something happens all the time, and some new stuff is being added automatically all the time. A very big driver of traffic to our apps is the event tool, where you can actually also subscribe to local events from specific actors in the local community. So if I am interested in the local football team, then they can tell the app that I want push notifications when they publish a new event, a new match or something. So that means we work with all these narrow segments in the local community to create a better relevance, because we don't really believe that the same communication, the same content is relevant to everyone. So we want to create these really narrow, meaningful relationships in the local community. The push tool is an important thing, of course, because that's really the outbound channel of an app, isn't it? Where you can actually, some things about your recipient, maybe what target group they're in, what part of the municipality they live in. That means you can work with outbound pushes to activate these users. If you compare it to a web environment, you actually can work with these, and we see that our municipalities working with the push tool actively to narrow target groups actually have a very good activity on this platform, because they are working outbound instead of waiting for the citizen, waiting for the users to come to them. So community, what we're talking about is community communication. We do not create a lot of new content for the app. We collect and we aggregate and we facilitate content locally. And we see that this isn't really being done in any of the social media. So it creates a bit of a contrast to the environments where we usually move around, Facebook's or Meta's environments and so on, because they're very sort of global in their approach, and they're also quite commercial in their approach. So if you want visibility on new content on these platforms, you either need to create some sort of viral effect, or you need to pay for extra visibility. And this is what we're trying to avoid in this platform. Actually, we want to create more of a democratic platform where no matter your sort of commercial situation as an organization or so, you have the same possibility of building visibility in your local community. So strategically, communication-wise, I live in Stockholm, so I'm using this example because I know I'm not too sure Stockholm's happy about this, but I'm using it anyways. Stockholm has about 6 or 7 apps in App Store. They have one where you can it says "tyck till" in Swedish. I'm going to translate this, Lova. So it means speak your mind, pretty much.
Have an opinion.
Yeah, have an opinion. Speak your mind about stuff. So it's partly typically as a city, you want people to report if there's anything wrong in the physical environment. So there's a light bulb out, or there's a hole in the road, or the garbage is not being picked up. So regular sort of municipal services. So the Speak Your Mind app is for reporting of this. So it's quite a common app in municipal terms, really. They also have a parking app. They have a school app for those who go to school. They have a sustainability and health app. They have a museum app, and they have an air quality app. And strategically, to me, having 7 single service apps in App Store is crazy. I think it's because what happens here is that you have volumes on each of these apps, maybe 10, maybe 100,000 downloads of each, but you have no possibility to actually do outbound communication on these channels. So it's only service. It's a single point of communication. It's inbound reporting and stuff. So it's pretty much web content in an app environment. So there's no real reason for this to be in an app in my world. If you collected these 6 or 7 services in one app, you would build a very strong app, call it the Stockholm app, with a big volume. And Stockholm has about 1 million inhabitants. What if you have 6 or 700,000 downloads of the same app? What kind of outbound communication possibilities does this give you? That means Stockholm would be able to reach more than half of their citizens like this. And today, most cities don't have a channel, an outbound channel at all for this kind of communication. So if Stockholm wants to reach its citizens, it's either by SMS, area SMS, if it's really serious, but to actually send these forced SMSs to people, it needs to be really sort of serious stuff. So either a flooding or any stuff like that, some sort of crisis. Or the next step is actually written postal communication, letters in the mailbox. And it's not the cheapest of ways, and it's not the quickest of ways to reach your citizens, I would say. So it's interesting how most cities do not have this outbound channel at all to their citizens. And it's quite easy to establish, I would say. Okay, yeah. Okay, some more quick cases. Oslo is a city a bit smaller than Stockholm, but still. And the Oslo case is interesting because we're seeing quite a big city, but we also see the need, as mentioned, for this hyper local relevance. We know what's happening on the big venues in the city. In Oslo, it's called Oslo Spectrum, or these big concert venues. We know what's going on there because these venues have money to advertise, but we have no idea what's going on in the local cultural institution in our part of the city. So we've divided Oslo into districts, and each district, when you download the app, you can choose what district of Oslo do you live in, and then your content is built locally from that district. That means it's a totally different content than what you see on Facebook or on the bigger social media channels, because these providers don't really have any visibility there. So that means we're building local communities, even in a big city like this. And we see a big effect in these districts where more people come to the events, more people engage in the town hall meetings and in the local communities and so on. So we really see maybe even more in the bigger cities than in the countryside communities that this is a lack. This local exposure is really lacking in these cities. Another example from how to build the channel, because what we need to do when we establish an app like this, of course, is to build the channel. And by building the channel, we mean how do we create downloads? How do we create volumes on this app? And to create volumes to make the citizen want to have this app in their phone, we need to provide value, yeah? So with the Oslo case, we provide this local, hyper-local value that they don't really have in a big city. With Södertälje, which is a city, town probably in international measures, about an hour south of Stockholm, they have utilized another way of building this daily value. They're really good at IoT data and this sort of real-time data from different sources in Södertälje. So they've built these real-time data surfaces. They have a bridge in the middle of the city that opens up once every second hour. And during those 50 minutes, you can't go from A to B in the city. So they're showing in the app, is the bridge open or is it closed? It's pretty simple stuff, this, but it's very useful because if I work or if I'm going to a lunch at the other side of the city, then I can see if the bridge is open or not. So we're trying to build these surfaces to build channel volume and channel loyalty. We want people to utilize this app on a daily basis by checking the bridge, checking the traffic, checking the public transport, whatever needs I have, checking the weather. I mean, of course we can check the weather in another app, but this takes us directly, locally to Södertälje, and it builds an identity in the surface. It builds an identity in the app. So, I mean, when these data flows are set up and these visualizations are set up, the editorial work in this app is nothing, yeah? So it's a daily updated channel with no work to it. Another way of building the channel, again, building the downloads, is by starting from within. Västerås is a city west of Stockholm, inland from Stockholm. And now this presentation should be updated actually, because this app was launched in May, June, I think, Luva. And so it's only 5 months old in App Store. And by adding valuable content in this app that with the target group, those who work for the municipality, Västerås actually got a really good boost in the start of launching this app, because all the employees downloaded the app during the first week. So already within the first week, 6,000 downloads and very good ambassadors for spreading the app, because these employees, they spread it to their family, they talk to their friends. So I mean, in these communities, you want to try to create this sort of organic spread of this channel, because that's how it works, isn't it? You want to build a good reputation for this new channel, and we see that this effect has really helped Västerås getting started when it comes to building this new channel. They have now, I think, somewhere between 15 to 20,000 downloads of this app, and already within 6 months from launch, this is by far the strongest channel, outbound channel they have. When it comes to reach, when it comes to responses, it's a lot stronger than their Facebook page already. It's a lot stronger than all their social media already. So this work, if you can do this in a smart way, it's not that hard to establish a new channel. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think with Västerås, I also like how they have really gone down to these very narrow target groups. They actually have like family centers and like old people centers, senior centers, which have activities for older citizens, that they push out their own content, and I think that is so valuable. I get like a push yesterday because I follow everything just to see what happens in the app. But I've got a push yesterday about, yeah, don't forget about the senior yoga tomorrow and stuff like that. So I really like how that is very super tiny target groups that would never be reached otherwise have a channel and they can speak directly to their citizens. I think it's amazing how Västerås works now. It's really funny.
Yeah, I agree, and this is quite typical for municipal services and how we run a municipality, isn't it? That we do have all these super small target groups. I mean, some of these senior centers, they only have a target group of a couple of hundred people. You know, they're really happy if 10 people come to their event or 20, but we build these super targeted messages. That have a really high value to the recipient too. If you sit at home and you can actually get a push saying you're welcome to come and have, you know, a bulle or whatever it is. It's so interesting how we can take this. I mean, municipal communication is usually very sort of broad and distanced, I think, from the actual community. And this is taking it really close to the actual citizen needs, which I find very interesting. One of our stronger cases historically, or still, I would say, is Sandefjord in Norway. They've worked with this kind of channel for 3 or 4 weeks. Sorry, 3 or 4 years now. 3 or 4 weeks. 3 or 4 years, and they've worked really long term strategically with this channel. They work, as we mentioned, with these sort of targeted push messages to different target groups: families, seniors, youth, you know, those who live there, and create this long-term relevance. Sandefjord is a town of about 70,000 inhabitants, and they have more than 50. I think they have almost 60% household coverage on this app now, and it really is so strong when something critically happens. Sandefjord had just established this channel when COVID started to enter their community. And they really had this strong channel to communicate these sort of changes in the rules and regulations, vaccines, these sort of everyday changes. And this is what we see with those of our clients who have established this app, is that when you have this sort of communication need and messaging that changes every half hour or every hour, it's so important to have this sort of time sensitive channel, because social media is not time sensitive. It's algorithms. You post something and then it's shown to the recipient maybe 1 day later or 2 days later or 3 days later. So I mean, it doesn't really have this here and now effect that we see in this kind of channel. So working with the push strategy, working outbound, working with these narrow segments is key to succeeding, I think. So we're talking about building the channel, meaning getting downloads on this. And once we have created this sort of critical mass of recipients, being 20% of the population as in Västerås, or being 60% of the population in Sandefjord, it's in both cases, it's their absolutely strongest channel compared to all other channels. What kind of effect and value can you actually create? Of course, the strongest example these days is, I mean, there's Europe, there's the world where we see more and more sort of crises coming up, all the way from the war in Ukraine to sort of this emerging climate crisis where we have more floodings, we have warmer weather. We're talking to Arizona, cities in Arizona. They want to build this channel to be able to warn about the heat, because it's a really big problem in the summer where the elderly go outside in high temperatures, and it's really dangerous. So I mean, these kind of crises on different levels are present in most of our cities. So So again, we're asking, do we have a channel, time-sensitive channel, here and now channel, if we wanna communicate in these kind of crises? And one example we have from outside of Stockholm again, Botkyrka, a few years back, they had these fires in the garbage station. So it's a huge garbage dump, and it started burning. And of course, this smoke from the garbage dump is not really all that healthy for the inhabitants, as you can imagine. So usually, what we'll do in Sweden is we'll go out with a central so-called VMA, so a warning to everyone about this. It's a central system of warnings that most countries will have, but it's pretty flat. So the same warning goes to those who live in the north of Sweden as those who live near this Botkyrka. So what this municipality had to do at the time, they didn't have any app, they didn't have anything. Again, they started calling around to their citizens, and it's really resource heavy. Of course, it's really expensive, and it's really sort of manual, the whole thing. So again, what if these things happen? Do we have a channel? I think we need to ask ourselves. The other perspective, of course, than these here and now and this critical communication. The other perspective is that usually cities have these sort of long-term communication goals that they do want to drive. Yeah, they often talking about wanting to change behaviors of their citizens. Maybe when it comes to mobility, we would like to get people to, I don't know, ride their bike more instead of driving a car into the city center. That's a common one, isn't it? And Stockholm is definitely one of the targets. Too many people are taking their cars into the city. It's a huge problem for our cities. So when we do have these behaviors that we want to change, how do we communicate this? So usually a city is going to buy, advertising space in their own city from Clear Channel or one of these sort of outdoors. So it's pretty expensive because we don't have our own channels. It's pretty expensive to buy in our own environments. We need to pay advertising money either to Meta, to Facebook, or other social media, or outdoors advertising to actually reach our own citizens with these messages. What if we have built this? If we have established this outbound broad channel with volume and some sort of channel loyalty, what happens then? What we very easily can do is to work with these targeted long-term messages. We could work with experts within nudging, of course, to get the messaging right, to get the timing right, to actually start exploring how we can change the daily behavior. We see that these reminders or nudges are really needed because the citizen wants to be engaged in these things, but we forget. We're quite lazy. We forget. We want to have these updates quite often. We see this with data, as mentioned in the Södertälje case from before. Can we show local data that stimulates a certain behavior? So quite easily, can we show that on the highway from Södertälje to Stockholm, that the traffic is really heavy right now? There's no use in taking the car because it's going to take you 2 hours to get to Stockholm. Then, of course, people are going to choose to get on the train. Yeah, it's quite easy stuff, this. But if we don't show this kind of data, the citizen is not really qualified to making the right choices. The same with the recycling station in Södertälje. In Sweden, we have these big recycling stations where you not for the water bottles from home, the daily stuff, but if you're gonna throw away your furniture or bigger stuff, then you need to take it in your car and go somewhere to this huge station, and then you put it in the right container. Well, what happens on Saturdays and Sundays during springtime when everyone is doing their cleaning? So what happens is that it's really full, that it's really crowded, and you have to queue in your car for an hour to get into the recycling station. It's not a very good idea, is it? We're trying to be climate friendly, and then we stand in line with our diesel cars for an hour to wait to do our recycling. So just by showing what's the pressure like on the recycling station now, how many people are there now? Is it yellow? Is it green? Is it red? We can help our citizens making these choices and say, okay, it's usually less traffic after 3, I'll go then, instead of going at 12 when everyone else is going. So we're trying to just visualize, just building these surfaces of valuable, sustainable communication to make people make the right choices. And we all know this. We all know we shouldn't drive a car that much. We all know we should, you know, recycle, whatever it is. But it is a lot easier to act on this sort of local data than on this global data that we see, you know, from CNN or wherever. We get these warnings, but if we can get these warnings, this messaging on a local level, it's so much easier to act on them because we really feel them close to us. More directly, in the Oslo case, for example, when it comes to these sort of climate issues that a lot of cities want to drive, these sort of sustainability behavioral changes, of course. Oslo's done a really interesting thing. They've implemented a solution in the app they call My Footprint. So it's sort of a climate calculator where you can input some information. Do you drive a car? What kind of food do you usually eat? How do you go to work and so on? And then you can get a calculation of your actual climate footprint. And you can also choose to receive tips on a daily or on a weekly basis on how to reduce your footprint. So really concrete, really local, really just for you. How can you help with your small choices to make a big difference? So I think it's quite an interesting solution from Oslo too. It's developed together with us, of course, and then a Norwegian provider of climate data, local climate data called Ducky. So I think it's worth exploring. And all of these apps that I'm mentioning now, to an international audience, of course, the language issue could be somewhere because they're in Norwegian and Swedish, but they're all publicly available in app stores. If you want to have a look at this, the Oslo app is called Min Bydel, for example, and what we'll do is we'll add some links to a follow-up email so you can have a look at these apps and explore them and even practice your Norwegian and Swedish.
I got a question regarding to this. If you're interested in the app,
Yeah.
Is it hard for us to set up a demo to view our own city's content, just to get a feel for it and show for clients?
It's actually quite, I mean, in most of these apps, and I would say 90% of the content is pulled in from external sources. So very little of the content, only the push messages, the sort of small messaging is made for the app exclusively. So usually most of the content is pulled in through RSS or simple sort of low threshold integration. So an answer to the question is that it's quite easy for us to set up a demo with your city's content to actually get a feel of how would this look for us. And then, of course, such demo wouldn't be perfect. It wouldn't have all your sort of graphics and everything, but it would definitely get a feel. And if you want to, you know, talk to colleagues and friends about this, it's easy to get this test flight link and actually have a look at it and try to sort of navigate and work with it. So it's usually takes about an hour or two to put together this content for each app. So, yeah.
And they can just contact you, right?
Yeah, or they can, or you, or
Or
me.
me.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll leave some contact details
Yeah.
in the end. So it's definitely. I mean, most of these cases are Nordic at the moment, but we do see quite a bit of international sort of interest in this too. I mean, we have explored a bit of Europe. We're talking to cities in the Czech Republic. We're talking to cities in Denmark and Finland. And I mean, the problem with all these cities is the same as in Norway. We do, and in Sweden, we do not have this outbound channel. We have been trusting Facebook, especially for many years, and more cities are seeing that it's not really working. Facebook is, first of all, the younger generation is not there. Second of all, the algorithms are sort of throwing stuff around, so we can't really reach people. Thirdly, the content in general on these channels are from so many different non-verified sources. So people don't really trust the content in these channels as much as they used to a few years back. I mean, Facebook 10 years ago was fine. Now it's a bit of a crazy environment for content, really.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that we haven't talked about much now when it comes to what value like this owned channel where you have like this community thinking behind it, which is strong. When we talk about sustainability, we usually talk about like the green sustainability, or you know, the climate sustainability and all that. But I think one thing that that is a really big issue is like the social sustainability in communities today, and how you're not connected to people, and how you're not feeling connected to your local community. And also like I just got yesterday or this week we have a client who is doing like a theme week for against violence. It's like a theme week within municipalities in Sweden. It's a week without violence, and trying to lift up these domestic violence issues that are still present in our communities today, and they lift it from a local perspective. This is because usually these helplines and everything, it's very national, but they bring up like local cases. This is who you can talk to here, and this is like this is the person you can connect with to get help, either from stop hitting your spouse, or to like actually get help to leave someone that is hitting you. So it's like this social sustainability angle of it, to having this very strong outbound channel. I think it's very interesting, like a second part of sustainability, and not just the climate part of it.
No, I agree, Luva. And the case you're describing, of course, I have this app in my phone too, so I see this push notifications. I think it's really impressive. It's a very small municipality, 10,000 inhabitants, I think, but they're creating, by just building this strong channel, they're creating more communication value than most of the big. I mean, I have a closer relationship to this small municipality called Svenljunga than I have to Stockholm, because they never communicate with me where I live. It's crazy. It's So I mean, it's so easy once you've established the channel to do these sort of weekly or daily sort of surfaces where you're in touch with your citizen. But so few cities do it.
Agreed. There's a lot of talk about this subject, and we haven't covered it all today, but I think we're gonna wrap it up. We're 5 minutes from ending, and I know that people usually like meetings to cut a bit short to get some more lunchtime. So we're gonna send out some follow-up from this webinar if you want to share with a colleague, or if you want to watch it again to see our pretty faces more. And if you have any questions, as we talked about today, you can contact either one of us. We are available everywhere here, or mail or LinkedIn or whatever. And just reach out. Bjarte, do you have anything you want to add before we close this off?
No, I think, I mean, as you say, there's a lot to say, and we'd be really happy to discuss your sort of individual issues in your city. I mean, some of this is general, some of this is more specialized for each country and each. We're really happy with about the interest from all of you. I mean, it means a lot to us, and it it confirms the idea that this is a problem globally, and of course that's stimulating to us too.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice to see just Nordic faces in the audience, because it's a problem that is global, as you say, local, global.
Yeah.
Right. Then we will wrap it up, and thank you so much for joining, and see you next time, I hope.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.